Well, we're back again. This is round 2. So if you weren't here last week, which I think pretty much everybody was, a couple new faces, but we'll catch you up. We have a half hour to do 3 things. So we're going to do those 3 things, but I want to remind us the 2 things we did last week. One, we talked about hearing God, and we talked about how to have a conversation that's different than we normally have. So over here, I want to remind you that there's 2 ways to help people move from where they are, which is where you meet them, to help them where nobody really wants to stay where they're at. Most people want to start moving forward spiritually, personally, in their job, in relationship to other people. They usually want more. So one way that we told, this is the well-worn path, is that we help people by delivering to them external information. So we talked about that as being a conversation. It can be us telling what we know, our experiences, listening to them for the gaps are, and us trying to fill those in with external information in the hopes that they would take action on what you say. So we talked about that as the well-worn path, and we said there's another way, which is kind of off the beaten path in our society. That's to help people discover internal awareness. And the hope is that they would take action on what they say, not what you say to them. So internal awareness is that light bulb moment for each person. It's an aha, and they're very subtle. You don't ever get to have the fireworks go off. You have to learn to watch for it. When you can help people discover what's inside of them, we talked about it as ownership. It's theirs. It's not yours. They're not renting it. They're not thinking about it as being true or not. It's very much real to them, and it's very much theirs. And when they take action on it, how likely, let's talk about this for a second. How likely do you think it is that they would take action on what they say versus taking action on what you say? So 100% being absolutely, watch out, it's going to start happening now. 0% being, it's not going to happen at all. How likely on either side would you say it is that they take action on what you say or what they say? What's the percentage? What would you say?
I would say if it's their idea, it's 100%.
Okay.
If it's your idea, it's about 50-50.
50-50, wow. Okay. Anybody else have a guess?
I'd knock down theirs to like an 80 or a 90 or so.
Okay.
Because there's sometimes even when you know they're true, and if you came to that realization yourself, you still don't want to deal with it.
Okay. Knock that down to 80, 90%. So it's actually 85 to 95% is the percentile. So we're getting pretty close to that 100%. But over here, we're going to have to knock that down. Because if I'm a really good teller, and you're a really good listener, and you, let's say you go to an all-day conference, you get that white notebook, you know, that has the nice logo on the front, and I am the best speaker possible, and you are a really motivated learner. If you did 25% of what was in that notebook, implemented that into your life, that would be incredible. That's about the highest you get, is 25%. Usually it's 15 to 25% of what we tell people will act on what we say to them. That's a big difference. So why don't we have these kinds of conversations more? Why don't we do this? Takes tools. So, yep, new skills, absolutely. What else? Why don't we do this? Takes more time. It's a big deal. In our society, it's a big deal. Yeah?
Can I qualify? So when you're saying it takes more time for the person inadvertently delivering information, is that what you mean?
Yeah, it takes more time for us to sit with people and help people. We have this perception that if I'm going to help someone discover something here that's inside of them, it's going to take me more time as the helper.
Right, because as the receiver,
Right.
it's quicker for me to get it probably externally.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
So we're saying that this, we think as a helper, we're thinking it's going to take more time here, and as the receiver, this seems, just tell me what to do and we'll get on with life. Whereas this feels like it takes longer. But let's go back to that percentage, 85 to 95, 15 to 25. Which actually takes longer? This side takes longer. Because qualitatively at the end, you're not getting as much. You're getting a lot less. And it takes a lot longer. You know, you've been in jobs, you've managed people. You say the same things over and over again. You have kids, you say the same things over and over. It takes a lot longer actually to do this than if you actually give someone an opportunity to discover. All right, time. We don't really trust that process either. We tend to have learned to trust telling. We trust ourselves in it. We trust the crowd, the people we're telling. We don't really trust that process. I want to talk a little bit about that after we do a demo here. So I do want to demo this. I want you not just to see it on paper. I want you to see it in a conversation. So can we do that? Have a little fun together? So to do that, I need a person that has a real thing that you want to move forward on. It could be personally, professionally, it could be in your job, it could be relationally, it doesn't matter. Anywhere you want to talk, I've had all those conversations, any direction you can imagine. And we can have that here. But it needs to be real. It can't be hypothetical. You can't be talking about somebody else. It needs to be about yourself and something you want to move forward on. Aaron Pratt. So, welcome, Aaron Pratt, to the crowd. I'm not going to volunteer you. You're just sitting down. So let's do this. I'm going to ask for a volunteer. It's going to be a 10-minute or less conversation. It won't be very painful. Who would be willing to talk about something that they want to move forward on?
I will.
Tish, in the back. Come on up. So, Tish, this is yours.
Oh, I have to use the microphone?
Well, these people think so.
Okay.
Okay, that's not going to be amplified. It'll be recorded.
Okay.
All right. So, speaking of which, this is going to be a conversation that's going to be happening here. You're going to be like flies on a wall. What do flies on the wall do?
Observe.
Observe. Do they make any noises? No, they're on the wall. They're not buzzing, right? They're landed. You're observing. So, no side conversations. Let's just have this be the conversation that you're observing, because that might be mistaken for what's happening up here. All right? Agreed? 10 minutes. I'll manage the time.
Okay.
So you just get to be here, and thanks for volunteering.
Okay.
Okay. You're not quite sure what's going to happen, are you? No. All right. So in order for this to work, it has to be kind of near the mouth.
I will do that.
All right.
Oh, okay.
But like right now.
Right now.
Yeah, perfect. All right. So what do you want to talk about, Tish? You don't have to do it quite so. Just
Okay.
like right there. Is that okay? Are we happy with that? Good.
I want to talk about getting healthy and losing weight.
Getting healthy and losing weight. Okay. So we want to have a conversation that's going to give you some new awareness, new thinking. So let's not talk about all the things you've already thought about this. Okay? Let's go to the edge of your thinking. Can we do that? What's at the edge? What's at the very edge of your thinking about how you can get healthy and lose weight? What's your best thought?
Better time management.
Better time management.
So,
Boy, you bring up big topics, because we can go a lot of ways with that. You've also thought about time management before, haven't you?
Possibly.
You've tried a lot of
Yes.
things. Yes. So what's at the core here? What are we talking about that's at the core for you to be able to manage your time better and get healthier?
somebody else want to volunteer?
Yes.
What's at the core? Busyness? Would that be a
Okay.
correct answer?
I don't know. I'm discovering with you here. So busyness, what else is at the core for this? You said time management kind of leads you to not get healthier because of...
Right, and
noticing-
choices,
Okay.
obviously. Food choices. And
Okay. So you know all the things to do here. It's
Yes.
not the lacking of any information
Right,
here.
so you want someone else to come
No,
up?
no. So I'm going to ask you, what's lacking for you to do this?
Self-control.
What else?
Prioritizing.
Okay. What else? I don't have a clue what you don't just, you're not trying, I'm not looking for an answer. I just know there's more. What else? What else is lacking here? Because you know all of the stuff to do. What's lacking for you getting this started?
Also just plain, probably laziness and liking food.
Okay.
I mean,
Good.
I love to socially eat, and I like chocolate. And that's not an excuse, it's just a choice.
Yeah. That's going to be a big change for you. What makes that change, I guess is my question. What makes that change? for you?
Making a different choice, even if I socially eat, choosing something different than I would normally choose.
Okay. What else will make that choice for you?
Having self-control.
Okay.
A lot of it comes to choice for me. I guess that's the word that just keeps.
Are you? Yeah, I
coming
like
to
that
mind.
word. Are you ready to make that choice?
I am. I really am. That's why God made me raise my hand.
Okay. Good. So, what does starting to make that choice look like?
An effort every day.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Can you be more specific?
When I wake up, I can choose to take longer to get ready, or take longer to get up, or and choose other things to do with my time instead of exercising or making a good breakfast. Or so those are choices that I need to change.
Okay. I still feel like we're talking about this. Does that make sense when I say that?
Yes.
We're just talking.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
What would take this beyond just talking about it?
Action.
Okay. And you're telling me the actions.
I am.
But you knew these actions before you came up here. You knew these actions. So what has to happen here in this conversation for this to be different?
I am going to make myself a priority as well, and that way I can be healthy to do the things that I need to do for others.
Okay. Can I say those words back to you? Mm-hmm. You can make yourself a priority. You haven't. Everybody else has been a priority. Getting it done, being there, learning it, new positions. It's all been a priority, not you. That's at the core. What's it like to hear those words?
I understand them. I mean,
Okay.
but yeah, just an effort needs to be made of change.
Okay. And it's an effort towards yourself, not towards, it can't fit with everything else. It has to be towards you.
Right.
So you have to have a new belief in order for you to believe that you can be a priority. What's the new belief?
The new belief is that I have to be a priority to be the person that I need to be in life. So I need to be healthy, and I also need to be an example for my boys and make sure that they're not making the same choices that I've made.
Okay.
And so I need to set that example
Okay.
as well.
Good. It's time.
It's time.
It is.
I agree.
Good.
We should make that happen.
Yeah. What's significant to you from what we talked about?
I need to work better on making myself a priority.
Okay. When will you start?
Today.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's today starting look like?
Today's starting is when I pick up my boys from school, we'll go for a walk.
Okay. Nice day. Good.
That's not raining.
Good.
Or snowing.
It's not raining or snowing. Good. Thank you for doing this with me.
Thanks, Steve.
Can we give a hand? All right. So, what did you notice about that conversation?
A lot of questions.
Questions. A lot of questions. What kind of questions?
Pretty personal.
Yeah. I wasn't being very kind, or I wasn't taking her through just a process. It was really oriented towards her. By the way, the opposite of kind is not mean. It's real. I was trying to have a real conversation with Tish. And one that she already had this conversation many times. And if we're going to have something different happen, it's got to be a real one. What else did you notice besides questions? Lots of questions.
I kind of felt like maybe 3 or 4 questions before you got there,
Mm-hmm.
you had kind of come to the understanding that like the prioritizing yourself and valuing yourself was going to be key, but you didn't just say like, you know what I think, like you need to value yourself more. You let her work there. You like asked leading questions, but she had to say those words first, and then you chose to like repeat them back.
Good.
You didn't say them first and have her like repeat them or go, oh, you're right.
Good. So, Matt, I think you're right. You saw me sit on myself because I had some things. I've had this kind of conversation with people lots. I had some things that I could have told Tish, and I didn't. But I didn't know where she needed to end up. What I've learned in coaching, in order to get to internal awareness, I can't lead in my questions. I have to really kind of just keep asking questions that I don't know where she's going to go with it, and let her go. So I wasn't leading in my questions, but I was sitting on myself. I could have said a lot of different things, and I didn't. Yeah, Chair.
She's a fairly verbal, outspoken person in her comfortable way. What if she were really shy or inhibited?
Good, I'd sit with her and be quiet with her. I would match my presence to hers. I am very outgoing. I can go a lot faster than I went right now. I could think on multiple levels. Most of the time I have to learn to slow down with people in order to be with them for their sake. So Tish and I are both extroverts similarly in some respects. So it works for us this way, but if I would be different, and I've coached plenty of shy people that I sit with, and I would be different in the way that I sit with them. Yeah, what else did you notice about, how is this conversation different than a normal conversation we have?
She has more output.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's a big deal, the amount of output you have. In other words, what came out of me versus what came out of her. These kind of conversations tend to have 20% coming out of me and 80% coming out of her. If most of us would learn to start having 20% come out of us and 80% out of others, that would be a huge shift. That's what this requires. If you're going to help people move forward, is you don't get to talk as much. You don't get to tell as much. You don't get to be putting everything together, figuring everything out. You get to learn to trust other people and let them output rather than you. That's a big deal. I keep saying that, but it is. This is a big shift for most of us. Okay.
What about when somebody kind of is the opposite of shy and just thinks you're drilling them?
Sure. So not everybody, absolutely. This kind of conversation, there needs to be an establishment of trust between the person. It can happen the first time you meet somebody. It doesn't need to happen a long period of time. So you just get that vibe. If they're backing away, you can either back away or you can say, can I ask you a question? I notice in this conversation you seem to be backing away. What would help you feel like this isn't an interrogation? Could we have a conversation differently than you stepping back? So, yeah.
So, regardless of who stepped up there in Tish's place, we would have had a concern and issue that we were asking help with. What if you already feel guilty, or you sort of feel like I've tried to lose weight, or I've tried to do this, take action? How do you overcome that, not beating yourself up again? So in other words, how do you help Tish not feel even worse about the fact she hasn't done
Good.
this?
So one of the big things in having this kind of conversation is I'm not here to judge right or wrong. This is big for the Christian community, because the Christian community tends to, now we're not going around saying people are wrong, but we tend to go around telling people what's right, this is right, this is right. Positive judgment is as much a judgment as negative judgment. It's still a judgment. I'm not in the conversation with Tish to say what's right or wrong. I trust the Spirit of God in her that He is going to be leading. But what enables this conversation is also my realness. So if I notice that she's beating herself up, I will bring it out, and I'll say to her, I notice, can I share what I notice? This way I'll ask, and she'll say yes. And then I'll say, I notice that you are judging yourself. You are hard on yourself. You're not thinking of yourself in ways that are going to move you forward. You keep stomping on yourself every time we talk about this in this conversation. How do you treat yourself differently in order to become more healthy? That would be my question. So again, I'm not in the place of this is right. Let me try to get you to the right place. Let me help you get the right way. Let me draw an example of that. I don't think we're going to get to everything we talked about getting to today. Okay, so let's just draw an example. Let's just have a little fun and then we'll be done. Point A to point B. How do we think about getting from point A to point B in our own life? How do we want to get there? Straight lines, quickest way possible? Okay, yes, very true. This is the way we think about getting from point A to point B. Let's talk about, so this would be our expectation, right? Usually of our expectation of ourselves. Let's talk about reality. Let's put point A up there and point B. What does it look like in reality to move from point A to point B? Anything but a straight line. Yeah, so you're going up here, you're coming back down here, you're going here, you're going here, you're going here, you're going here, right? Right? You're all over the map. No, yeah, it does. Hey. All right, so it does spell love. But, say, think about the wilderness. How long does it take to walk from Egypt to the Promised Land? How long does it take if you were to set out walk from our expectation? How long would it take? Okay, you get 1 million people, so let's make it a month, okay? Not 1 million, you get a lot of people. I don't know, you got a lot of cows and stuff too. So you got a lot of people are not going to walk in a straight line, but you're trying to get there, okay? It took them 40 years. Now, it didn't take them 40 years at first. They went and stood at that river and they made a choice. And the choice they made was to be afraid rather than to trust God. To believe, they chose to not believe. And so God didn't stand at that river and say, you go and back into that desert and I'll be waiting here. Because this is the straight line. This is kind of the way we view God sometimes. That he's standing at point B trying to help us get it right. What did God do at that river with them? Where did the cloud go? Where did the smoke or the pillar of fire go? Back with them. I guess that is love. To willing to journey with people in the wrong direction. We don't do that in the evangelical community. You know what we do in the evangelical community? Let me help you get it right. This is the 10 things you can do to get it right. Let's write a book about it. I made some mistakes. I'll help you not make those mistakes. That's not what God did. He goes with us. It makes me tingle because of the Lord's kindness. He goes with us in the wrong direction. So it is love to be willing to be in a conversation where they're not getting it right without having to tell them, this is the straight line. You need to be here. Think about your children. Think about your people around you that are not getting it right with you. Most of us get frustrated, and we're standing at the river saying, fine, you go learn the consequences. This is the right way. We're not willing to go with people in the wrong direction like God does with us. Big deal in our society. All right, let's talk about what the conversation looked like, and I think that's all we have time for. So here's how you have this kind of conversation. You saw me do this. What do you want to talk about? And then you saw me do this with my questions. What I did next was I started with what she wanted to talk about, and I started to focus it. So some of my first questions were me saying, okay, where do you want to, let's talk about the edge of your thinking, because you've thought about this so much. Let's go to the very edge. Let's not go walking through all the things you've thought about, what you've tried. Let's go to the cliff, stand there, and I'm going to ask you to jump off of what you've thought about, what you've tried. And that's where we are focusing the conversation, narrowing it down. What we're narrowing it down to is this light bulb moment, this awareness that we've talked about. And that is the narrowest point of the conversation. When you're standing in a river that's having to go between two large rocks, and you're standing on one of those large rocks, and they're narrowed together, what's happening in front of you? White water. Fast, loud, white water. That's what happens at a point of awareness. You may not see it or hear it, but they are. Something just shifted in them. There's lots of energy in them at this point. So what we want to do is use that energy in the conversation, their awareness, to help them to get to action. The reason that action is broader is because the thing we're talking about, like for instance with Tish, Her awareness was what? What was her awareness? What's that? Time for herself, yep. Making herself a priority. Making choices for her rather than choices for everybody else and her schedule and being busy. That awareness is probably more than just helping her make better food choices or a healthier lifestyle. That is probably has a lot of other application. She's not making herself a priority. I'm speaking as if you're not in the room. Not making yourself a priority probably has other places where that's playing out. And so I could ask her, where else do you need to make yourself a priority? How else? Besides having a healthy lifestyle or going for a walk with your boys today, how else do you need to make yourself a priority? How do you make yourself a priority in your marriage? How do you make yourself a priority in your time here at work? All these different things we could ask. That would have broader application than just what we were talking about at the point of awareness. So then we end the conversation with what was significant to you. Again, it's not what I learned, it's what they learned. Can you do this? Can you have a conversation like this with people? Lots of not sure heads across nobody's going like this, everybody's going, You can. Sure, it would take a new set of skills, it would take time, you'd have to trust some new things. Take work. What's the payoff? How much is this? How valuable is this? What's that? Life change. Yeah. What else? How valuable is this?
Potentially
Eternally. Oh, what's the commercial that does priceless? What's that? What's that commercial? MasterCard, yeah. So I'm sure probably the first 30 days with MasterCard is pretty priceless, right? But 21% interest? Yeah. But being able to have a conversation where people discover for themselves, own it, have it, and you're there serving them. That's priceless. It might be eternal. Something that connects you with them, but more than that, helps them discover not only what they say, but what God's saying to them. Remember we talked last time about hearing God? God's speaking. One more story and I'll be done. So you probably know this when you speak at a group or something, is there's usually a line that forms afterwards. You've seen a speaker maybe, and there's a line that forms afterwards. Well, I'm up in Seattle, I'm speaking to a large crowd, and there's the line afterwards. This is still not easy to talk about. So the guy, I still remember what he looks like, but it's the way he said it that hit me in the gut. He said, "James, you stutter, don't you?" And at that moment, well, I wish he had been the first person to say it. He wasn't. But it was that moment I remembered Jamie Steck. He lived down the street from me. I was 6 years old. He was probably the first kid to say it. And I want to talk about speech therapy and what all the kids said. But you know what I had to learn? I had to learn to slow down so I could get my words out. And I don't know if this will resonate with you, but for me it's huge. People need you to slow down so they can get their words out. It's a big deal. You can do this. Sure, it takes time, energy, effort, but you can have a conversation that's not about you. It's not about what you know. It's about them. Thanks for having me.